Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of Nightmare Theater, an open book club for nightmares. Before we get started, well, this week's going to be about hypnosis, even though it's not exactly related to nightmares. By the way, I'm wearing my Macbeth shirt. It says, "Something wicked this way comes." You might be wondering why is he wearing a white shirt, because it's not very spooky, but it's Macbeth, so it's a little spooky. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to be talking about hypnosis and nightmares. There's not super much of a connection between the two, but hypnosis is just one of those spooky brain things, and I felt it was a good fit. Also, before I get started with the presentation, I have a bit of a channel announcement, and also I want to say thank you for helping me hit 100 subscribers. It's been a long 7 years of The Forgotten Grove. 4 months taking it seriously, obviously. But it's nice to hit that milestone finally. Hi in the chat. And I have the little small announcement I wanted to make is just that on Tuesdays I'm going to be sometimes adding a new type of video. So I had wanted to, I have a TikTok in case you don't know, and it's not me, showing my big bank or anything. Sorry if that's what you were looking for, but you can check that out. It's linked on my channel. But anyway, I do similar content to what I do here. And on Tuesdays, I'm going to be making, like, every now and then a TikTok compilation. There's going to be one for this Tuesday, which is on nightmare interpretation. And I've kind of like compiled it nicely and put some attractive photos next to my face, just kind of giving the information. But it's just like a very compact form of, repurposing some of the work I've already done. I think later there's going to be one that's going to be like a bunch of sleep paralysis demons, like a bestiary of sleep paralysis demons. So again, that might be like once a month there'll be a Tuesday video, but it won't really be in regards to, it's don't expect it, and it's not going to change Nightmare Theater on Sunday, and it's not going to change the story videos I do on Thursday. Anyway, that's what we're doing moving forward. And I'm going to get into the presentation now. Okay, excellent. So you can see. So, as I mentioned, not super related to nightmares, but hypnosis in extreme cases did sort of remind me of sleepwalking. And that was sort of the jump-off point for where I wanted to explore it. So defined, hypnosis is a human condition involving focused attention, reduced peripheral awareness, and an enhanced capacity to respond to suggestion, which is a term for the hypnotist telling you to do something or suggesting that you do something, compelling you to do something. There are competing theories explaining hypnosis and related phenomena. Altered state theories, which is the main theory, see hypnosis as an altered state of mind or a trance, and it's marked by a level of awareness that's different from the ordinary state of consciousness. In contrast, the other theory of hypnosis, non-state theories, see hypnosis as variously a type of placebo effect. So it's not a real phenomenon in a sense, but it's just sort of a redefinition of an interaction with a therapist or a form of imaginative role play. So on some level, you have to be willing to do the things that are being asked of you in hypnosis. And it usually begins with a hypnotic induction, which involves a series of preliminary instructions and suggestion. I've already talked about what suggestion is. So Freud believed that suggestion was the way of, and suggestion just being the therapist talking to you while you're in the hypnotic state. Freud believed this is a means of communicating directly with someone's unconscious mind rather than their conscious. And there's a lot of criticism of that, of course, over the years, but it's an interesting thought. Like, what if you could actually, because that's where your dreams come from, right? The unconscious mind. If you could commune with it directly, that's something there maybe. The use of hypnotism for therapeutic purposes has been referred to as hypnotherapy, and also stage hypnosis is a form of entertainment that you may have seen what does it look like? So a hypnotized individual appears to heed only the commands or the communications of the hypnotist, and typically responds in an uncritical, automatic fashion while ignoring all aspects of the environment other than those pointed out by the hypnotist. In a hypnotic state, an individual tends to see, feel, smell, and otherwise perceive in accordance with the hypnotist's suggestions, even though these suggestions may be in apparent contradiction to the actual stimuli present in the environment. The effects of hypnosis are not limited to sensory change. Even the subject's memory and awareness of self may be altered by suggestion, and the effects of the suggestions may be extended, so post-hypnotically into the subject's subsequent waking activity. And that's the way in which you could use it for therapy. And we'll get more into that in a bit. So how do you actually induce hypnosis? Well, I'm just going to talk about the traditional techniques from when it was first discovered or sought. So James Braid is one of the fathers of hypnosis. In the 19th century, he saw fixing the eyes upon a bright object was the key to hypnotic induction. A century later, Freud saw fixing the eyes or listening to a monotone sound or white noise could do it. Those are indirect methods of induction, as opposed to the direct methods of influence by staring into someone's eyes or stroking someone. These all lead to the same result, the subject's unconscious concentration on the hypnotist, or the hypnosis. The swinging watch and the intense eye gaze, which are staples of hypnotic induction in film and television, of course, are not used in reality, as both the rapidly changing movements and the simple cliche of their usage would be distracting. Right, makes sense. So hypnotic induction may be defined as whatever is necessary to get a person into the trance. So when understood as a state of increased suggestibility, during which the critical faculties are reduced. And there's also been some evidence of changes in brain activity and mental processes when somebody has been hypnotically induced. So there does seem to be some realness to hypnotism. So as a treatment for nightmares, again, like as mentioned earlier, one of the general theories is that it's just sort of the ultimate placebo, because it's getting your mind to, your mind being the thing that's capable of all of your perception. That's where all your perception comes from, and you're basically just telling the mind like what to perceive while in a very focused or very, maybe just talking to the subconscious, right? So it's likely that you can tell it, if you're afraid of something, don't be afraid of this anymore. And in the trance, your subconscious just kind of internalizes that message, right? So there has been some research done on this. So in terms of weight loss, some research has found that people who are undergoing cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a very widely accepted, therapy in psychology, they were undergoing this therapy in order to lose weight. So the idea is that you are trained to eat less via cognitive behavioral therapy. And then they also had another group that did cognitive behavioral therapy plus hypnosis, where they were put in a trance and then instructed to eat less. I'm not entirely sure exactly what was said during the hypnosis, but the idea is that it's in the interest of losing weight. So they found that after 4 to 6 months, those undergoing the cognitive behavioral therapy plus hypnosis dropped more than 20 pounds, while those who did just cognitive behavioral therapy lost about half that amount. So the hypnosis group also maintained that weight loss during an 18-month follow-up period, while cognitive behavioral therapy only group tended to regain some weight. So it really does seem to have a profound impact on your behavior if you allow it to, which is pretty interesting. So it does seem to be a real phenomenon. You can see that I was sort of debating with myself whether it was as I was reading about it. But it's also known to be useful for helping with stress, PTSD, depression, quitting smoking, addictions, even pain management. If you have some pain that you're suffering from and you get hypnosis and just telling your brain that you're not feeling the pain, apparently you'll actually not feel it as much. And then also general habit control. And of course, what we're most interested in, nightmares, sleepwalking, and sleep night terrors. So there's a study here from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. I just posted a tiny bit of the results there on the screen. But the study took 36 people. Each of them had been diagnosed with one of 8 parasomnias, including the 3 here, nightmares, sleepwalking, and night terrors. And Dr. Peter Howry, the lead author of the study, performed the hypnotic treatment. He's a clinical psychologist and board-certified sleep specialist trained in hypnosis. The researchers defined hypnosis as a state of deep physical relaxation, but with retention of an active and focused mind. The treatment session lasted about 50 minutes. Howry was unable to hypnotize 8 of the 36 people, so he wasn't able to help them or get them under hypnosis in the first place because it doesn't work on everyone. And 9 of the members in the study group needed a second session. 4 people requested and received a refresher session 6 to 12 months later. And participants received a tape recording of their hypnosis session. They were told to listen to the tape each day at home for at least 2 weeks. And interestingly, they found that participants completed follow-up surveys after 1 month, 18 months, and 5 years, and roughly 40% of the subjects reported a positive change after the hypnosis with their nightmare disorders. So they had either no episodes of the parasomnia or they were much improved, and the results remained about the same at all 3 stages of the follow-up, so after the first 1 month, 18 months, and 5 years. And then this is the degree to which it worked. So as you can see, of the 7 participants they had that had nightmare disorder, 5 of them said that it was improved by the hypnosis, so their nightmare disorder was not as severe. About half of the people of the 6 participants for sleepwalking improved. Interestingly, though, only 1 out of the 5 for night terrors improved, which is interesting because, of course, sleepwalking and night terrors are kind of the same somnambulism, except for sleepwalking, it's just more of a dream than a nightmare. So that's kind of interesting. You wouldn't really expect those numbers to be too different, but it is a small sample size. There's also been cases of hypnotic crime. Now, what I mean by that is people hypnotizing others in order to then commit a crime towards them. So there was an incident reported in London in 2014, London, England, where a video seemingly showed a robber hypnotizing a shopkeeper before robbing him. The victim did nothing to stop the robber from looting his pockets and taking his cash, only calling out the thief when he was already getting away. In 2013, there was an amateur hypnotist called Timothy Porter who attempted to sexually abuse his female weight loss client. She reported awaking from a trance and finding him behind her with his pants down, telling her to touch herself, and he was subsequently called to court and included on the sex offender list. So there are a couple more examples like this, which are kind of interesting. But she apparently appears to wake up from this, mid-trance. So again, there are people who are trying to, do malevolent things with this. But it does seem, as I was reading through the cases, including more than I showed here, that ultimately they seem to get caught every time. Although maybe we just don't hear about the cases where they don't get caught. So some other common tropes in media for hypnosis. Although it's popular in media with the whole mind control thing and sleeper agents, there isn't actually any evidence that I could find that it's a real phenomenon. A sleeper agent in real life is just a spy. It's like a deep cover agent, basically. They just go and live their life as normal in another country. And then being activated means someone from their home country just comes and tells them, hey, let's get to work with doing whatever they went there originally to do. So there's no, some pineapple or whatever. You say some word and then they're like activated, and then they go and carry out a series of like assassinations. That's not a thing. They don't forget and then remember who they were. It doesn't seem to work that well. Although, as you'll see in a minute, there are some cases of hypnosis where it really is modifying human memory. It really does seem to have a very real ability to do that, which is quite interesting. So obviously, yeah, the Manchurian Candidate, I included that on the left there, just because that's an example of one of these, deep cover movies that's not really reflective of how hypnosis may work in the real world. And as discussed in 2 episodes ago, I think it was, repressed memories. So this is the other sort of fictional thing, but it seems to be a little less fictional than maybe the Manchurian Candidate thing. But essentially, the idea is that you can uncover repressed memories that the subconscious is aware of via hypnosis. So someone will remember the repressed memories. We were talking about it, of course, 2 weeks ago in the case of people having dreams or nightmares where they're recalling abuse that they had forgotten. And so that would seem to indicate that maybe your subconscious is aware of things that it's not allowing your conscious brain to see. And there is maybe some evidence for that, but it seems like it's difficult to tell with hypnosis whether or not that's really happening, because hypnosis has a tendency to induce false memories in people. And I'm going to talk about that more on the next slide, but there are another few problems with this. So in addition to the false memories, so they found that people who are under hypnosis don't have a better ability to recall any memory than they do just in their regular conscious state. So you have this, but sorry, I don't know why. Okay, I might cut this out too, actually. Okay, am I back? All right, sorry about that. I hope that I'm streaming now. Okay, let me just start this nightmare again. Yeah, sorry, something happened to my internet and I just had to reboot it. But I had the presentation recorded. I don't know how much of it you saw, or if it will like continue now. But yeah, again, sorry about that, and I'll just have to continue. So, as mentioned, this is a post by a user named AccomplishJoke173. The post is titled, "Nightmare, but I liked it." The post reads, "I've always had the most bizarre dreams that don't make much sense. I also happen to dream in all black and white. I don't know why. Anyways, just for some context, because I feel that it may be related. For a few days before I had this dream, I felt like I was tired of life. Not suicidal, just tired and bored. I wanted to go somewhere, in another world on a fantasy. In my dream, I headed downstairs. In front of me were 2 male twins, both wearing brown hooded tunics. For some reason, I just knew one of the twins was like evil and the other was good. I don't know how or why, but I just knew. The evil one always had a creepy smile, whilst the other one had a plain face. The twins told me to do stuff. I don't know what their intentions were, whether they wanted to help or harm me, but I just listened to what they told me to do. They poured foamy soap all over my body and told me to run around in a large circle with my hands out. Foamy soap just dripped off my body as I continued to run around. I don't know why I listened to them, but I just did what they asked without any questions. They stared at me while I did this. Unfortunately, I don't remember what woke me up, but I woke up. I started to softly cry. This was one of the most vivid dreams I ever had. I started to cry. I wanted to go back into that dream. It felt good. I don't know what their intentions were, if it was harm or good, but I just had this feeling that they wanted to help me. I'm crying now as I had to try and remember the dream. I want to go back and finish the dream. I want to know what those twins wanted. I really enjoyed the dream." Interesting. I mean, it could be argued that it's not a nightmare. If you enjoyed it, it could be a bad dream or just a weird dream or an interesting dream. The main thing that I actually get from this is that it's about a parent or parents, plural. So you could, maybe one was more strict than the other. So you kind of like identify them as, well, they're twins in the sense that maybe they're equally authority figures, but one of them is like good and one of them is bad. And the fact that you have like soap dripping off your body, like your parents maybe wanting you to clean as you continue to run around, them telling you to do stuff, that type of thing. Alternatively, it could be an individual parent, and you are, maybe splitting. So this would be, in psychology, if you had trouble dealing with, maybe a parent who placed a lot of demands on you. Something that can happen in somebody, for example, with, borderline personality disorder, is that you can imagine that parent is, there's a good and a bad version of the parent, and that, you'll actually like split that individual into two different people because your mind doesn't understand that people are complex essentially at that age. So again, the whole like foamy soap thing reminds me of like being forced to bathe as a kid. The fact that they're wearing brown hooded tunics, I'm not sure what I would make of that, as well as, okay, you feel they may be related, that it's in black and white. I mean, black and white, that could also relate to your past, so like early childhood you're thinking of, maybe. That's about the best I can do. I feel like I should catch up with my chat because I was blanked out for a bit, but I hope you enjoyed my interpretation. Hope you got something out of it. Okay, so it was stuck 21 minutes in. I have a recording of the stream. I don't know if I might have to just like upload that separately and delete this one. So halfway through the presentation you lost it. Yeah, I'll probably just have to upload my recording. Hey, just dropping by for a sec. It's 3:28 a.m., but I woke up from a weird dream. I'll go back to sleep in a couple of minutes though. Hi, Michelle. I haven't read your nightmare yet. My stream went down. I don't know if you noticed. So yeah, we're gonna be reading a nightmare from Michelle at the end of the stream because she sent one in. By the way, if you want to send in a nightmare, forgottengrove@gmail.com, right there if you're interested in doing that. Seems like things are running smoothly now. I haven't actually had an internet crash in like half a year, so I feel pretty confident overall. This is a post by a user named PennyRose247. The post is titled, Gruesome Dead Boy. The post reads, I had this nightmare last night and can't stop thinking about it. Maybe writing it down will make me feel better. I'm walking down a dark street at night with my parents. We're uneasy for whatever reason, kinda rushing. We see a little boy, about 5 to 6 years old, coming at our direction, who looks pretty anxious too. He stops He stops a few feet from us, turns around, and keeps walking. We're following him now. 5 minutes later he stops and kneels down, with his hands on something. We stop a few feet from him. I can't tell what he's touching because it's dark. Then he picks up the thing, and it's the severed head of a little boy, as young as him. I hear my mom panicking. We leave the scene running, and the little boy, the alive one, runs with us too, looking super confused. The street lights are on now. As I run, I'm looking down. I see severed fingers and blood on the ground. Blood splashed on my leg as I stepped on something. It's goddamn gnarly. Little boy grabs my arm and says, I'm so sorry. As his bloody palm is printed around my wrist, I hear police sirens and then wake up. Interesting. I mean, that one kind of reminds me of the feeling of guilt. Even though you weren't the aggressor, like you and your family feel anxious about something. It's a boy that you don't know, and he's picked up the severed head of another boy. I don't know. It almost seems like maybe you witnessed bullying or something. And, or, maybe it's like a family friend has like an annoying kid and you don't like him for whatever reason. And you feel bad about that. But I know, yeah, that's not really on my nightmare chart. But that's freaky. I'm so sorry, he says. Is the dreamer a boy? Could be a little boy himself. I don't think it says. 5 to 6 years old. Yeah, sorry, I think that's like the best I can do with that. But that's a cool dream. I mean, not cool. I mean, it's scary, but what are you gonna do? This is a post by a user named DMC Virgil fan. The post is titled, "Recent nightmare scared the hell out of me." The post reads, "I've had nightmares of every form for as long as I can remember. They are often only dreams I can remember, but this one from a few nights ago, I don't even know how to describe it. The nightmare begins with me waking up in my bed. I honestly thought I was awake. That's how realistic it looked and felt. I go to roll over and I feel like someone or something is slowly wrapping its fingers around my ankles. I've experienced this several times before, and it's just the blankets settling around my legs. So if I shake them, it goes away. Not this time. This time, the grip just gets stronger and stronger. I start to panic as it slowly begins to drag me down the bed, standing me up straight. The blankets still covering my face, stifling me, suffocating me. The last thing I remember before waking up is a woman's voice screaming, 'Wake up, wake up.' I wake up, flinging the blankets off me. I'm completely terrified. I'm alone. No one was grabbing me. No one was trying to wake me up. This is possibly the shortest nightmare I've ever had, and yet it's one of the scariest. I'm thinking about it still, a week later." Wow. At first I was thinking it was sleep paralysis, because that's a common hypnagogic hallucination, to get the sensation of being dragged out of bed. I mean, the first part, though, I can tell you is certainly a false awakening. So that's what it's called when you wake up in the dream and you don't realize that it's still the dream. But the fact that you did, in fact... Sorry, it isn't clear to me whether you actually woke up standing up at the foot of your bed. Because if I would say that this would be a night terror, or you sleepwalk, which means that you probably had this nightmare in deep sleep rather than REM sleep. So it's a very unusual one. And you're not supposed to remember nightmares that you have in deep sleep as easily as those in REM sleep. So it's interesting that you remember it. I mean, as for what it means, it sounds like previously you have had this fear of things wrapping around your ankles and, tugging on you. So it could just be based on that fear. I'm buffering again. I don't know. I'm just going to have to re-upload this. I'm not sure why my internet's bad. It hasn't been for half a year. Anyway, so relating to the previous dream, a bodiless head or of decapitation may be asking you where your emotions and logic are not in balance and invite you to reunite the areas of your life that seem separate or disjointed. Interesting. So this would be more interpretation for the previous caller. Not caller, for the previous post on Reddit in regards to the disembodied head. Yeah, but sorry, for a DMC Virgil fan, I hope you liked my analysis. Or that, I know that one wasn't related. I'm a bit frazzled just because it seems like I just keep struggling with my internet, so yeah. But the woman's voice screaming, "Wake up, wake up." I don't know. I don't know what that could be, who the woman could be. Maybe just something trying to get you to get out of there. It buffers just a little longer. I might actually go back to sleep like I should. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. This is a post by a user named SomePhilosopher3049. The post is titled, Worst Case Scenario. The post reads, I have a high-stress job and deal with bad situations on a daily. I go to bed and try to get rest. I am an active dreamer and can control about a quarter of the dream, but the other 3/4 is hell. Just the other night, I sat and watched as the meme era of my family got killed in front of me. I wonder what that means. It all began with my little brother, who had his throat slit with a box cutter. My mother was shot in the back of the head. A masked figure stood over my body and asked me if I was too much of a wimp to save them. Was paralyzed in this dream. My older brother was beaten to death with a baseball bat, and my father had his neck snapped. Finally, I was so furious, but I became paralyzed. I box and understand basic wrestling moves. In the dream, I walked to the first guy, a 5, and kneed him in the guy, grabbed him by the neck and grabbed a chain from the garage door and hung him. Guy 2 came over with the box cutter. I took it from his hands and knocked him out cold, and cut the ligaments on his outer limbs. Guy 3 was sitting at a table and aware that I was there, and I shot him and 4 in the head. The last one that mocked me, we fought for what seemed like forever. I got up of him shoving me to the door. I used a suplex on him, but I did it backwards, so his head slammed into the concrete floor. He laughed and said that I was weak. I stepped on his lower back to inflict more pain, left him there. I called the police and told them what happened. I was taken to jail. I woke up in a panic and called all of my family members at 4 a.m. Sorry for the blood and horrific imagery. This happens 2 times a month. Wow. Okay, so there's a lot there that we can look at on our interpretation chart. So, first of all, I mean, dead family members and you calling them when you woke up, that is a feeling of, missing them or feeling a bit guilty that maybe you haven't reconnected with them in a while. So that one's not too bad. Although it could be, certainly one of the major themes for the nightmare. But also we have being paralyzed, so unable to move. So you feel stuck in some situation in real life, or there's something about yourself that you're suppressing. Something about yourself you're suppressing. That one, I think, also then ties into war. I mean, this isn't really war, but the fact that it's not just, you're not just getting, taken advantage of in this dream. Like, obviously you experience some bad things early on in the dream, but it really does turn out to be kind of an even fight, and you give all these guys their just desserts by the end of it. So I would call this a war dream of sorts. It represents inner conflict that you're processing an argument you had with someone, or it could be compensation for a lack of aggression in real life. The dream is trying to tell you to be more aggressive or assertive. Now, if you box, I don't know how much truth there would be to that, unless maybe you chose to box initially because you feel that you're lacking aggressiveness or assertiveness in real life. Could be, right? And the fact that you feel stuck, could be related to that, right? It could be related to the feeling of not being able to see your family. Like maybe you're just stuck in some work situation and they're far away. And then that's also why you feel guilty and you're seeing them dead. So that's one possibility. The other possibility, as I see it, is that, the paralysis is representative of the thing that you feel stuck in is your own mind, in the sense that you are unwilling to step in. Sorry, just this chat comment. I suplexed him, but he got up and hit me with a tombstone. I responded with a DDT, but he finished me off with a "you can't see me." Sorry, just that made me smile. Right, and then there was one other thing here. Maybe just no. I think I actually covered everything. I think that was a pretty solid analysis. I think that you should have got something out of that. I hope you did at least. Sweet dreams. Yeah, I hope this is the perfect stuff to listen to at 3:30 a.m. just before going to sleep. Dreaming about your family being murdered is a sign that you're changing or want to change. Yeah, I listen to a lot of horror stories before I go to sleep. Let's find another one. This is a post by a user named straight_sugar_. The post is titled Nightmare or Paranormal Experience. The post reads, "This is a lot to unpack, so I'll do my best to explain. I have a recurring nightmare where I'm laying in bed and all of a sudden I'm being dragged out of bed by my ankles and thrown around the room by a force that radiates evil. When I first started having these dreams, I could usually pull away and wake up, but the more I have them, the harder it gets to escape and the more malevolent it feels. I remember the first time having this dream very clearly. My room was dark, and my left leg was being pulled to the far corner of the bed. I tried to escape by shifting my body to the opposite side of the bed, to the point where my entire torso was dangling off the side as I tried to pull free. I repeatedly screamed 'stop' at the top of my lungs when my entire body tensed up and I just lied there, draped over the side of my bed, mouth wide open as my entire body started seizing. It feels very demonic or very witchy to me, but is this just a nightmare? It might be a night terror, but I never wake up screaming, so I'm not sure. But are you waking up over the side of your bed would be my concern. So if you, for it to be a night terror, as I mentioned earlier, that would mean that you're in deep sleep rather than REM sleep, which means that your body isn't paralyzed, because you have something. Your brain, to protect you, well, in REM sleep will paralyze your body using atonia, which is how sleep paralysis happens. But night terrors and sleepwalking are the opposite. They happen during deep sleep. So if you can walk around, if you're actually moving around, then it's likely to be a night terror. I would say. At first, I actually did think it was sleep paralysis, though, because you're describing the feeling of being dragged, which is, as I mentioned previously, a common hypnagogic hallucination. So I would say whether or not it's a night terror or just a nightmare depends on how you wake up. I would look at that. So like if you're actually waking up over the side of your bed, I would call it a night terror. If you're just waking up on your back normally, then that would be a nightmare. And then my analysis of that nightmare would be something along the lines of that you feel afraid of something paranormal. Maybe watching too many paranormal movies or whatnot, but you've sort of built this fear up a bit in your head, it would seem. Right, because you're afraid of this thing generally, and then it continues to happen. Yeah, but check in to see whether you think that it's a night terror or nightmare based on how you wake up, I would say, or maybe film yourself if you really want to get creative. But that might also end up spooking you if you watch the tape and see something. I mean, that would answer whether it's Paranormal Activity, though. I don't know if you've seen that movie. But yeah, maybe you'll see something you won't want to see. That's actually, there's a lot of nightmares on the Nightmares Reddit this week that are about flying out of bed. But I'm going to actually read Michelle's nightmare now, because I don't want to run out of time for that. So our friend Michelle, she sent in a bunch of nightmares, and she sent me another good one this week. So let's take a look at that. So I was living in a huge mansion in this dream, more like a castle, honestly. It was located in a forest, but this part was very close to the main city and had a driveway go directly from the mansion into the city. My mom was there, as well as one of my cats, Caesar. In real life, when you go outside with him, he will follow you around like a dog. It's very cute. We often play with him outside in this large field in front of our house. He will just come running after you, and you go in there, and it's the cutest thing. Okay, back to the nightmare. My mom was standing in the garden, or forest, with me, and reminded me that it was time to go to school. I apparently always took Caesar with me, and of course did so this time as well. We ran out of the forest together and through the city. He did go in a different direction at some point because he was curious about a lady sitting on a bench. I was worried and called for him, but I saw the lady meant no harm. She cuddled him for a bit, and then he came back to me. We continued walking and suddenly entered the school. I can't remember seeing it from outside. It looked like another castle on the inside, though. Right before I walked from the hallway into a large sort of dining room, I stopped. The door was almost closed, but through a small gap I could see a figure standing on the other side. I recognized him immediately. He was a sleep paralysis demon that had been terrorizing me all night, although I can't remember seeing him before this. Interesting. I was paralyzed, and he came closer. He stood in front of me and started laughing. He was going to try and do something, and he was slowly moving his arm, but I could stop him. My arm could move again, as he was moving in slow motion, so I could just hit it to stop him from doing whatever he was doing. He looked kind of surprised, but I was actively trying to wake up at this moment, so he became blurry. It felt like the dream, or the demon, was trying to keep me there, trying to pull me back as I saw reality come closer. I really didn't want to go back though, no matter how tired I felt. I saw my room at some point and still felt paralyzed. I tried to turn on the lights, and with much difficulty I succeeded. The lights worked. It felt so real. I got sucked back out. I kind of got sucked back into sleep mode, but I was able to keep fighting it. I knew if I'd fall back to sleep, I'd end up back with that red demon dude again. No way was I going to let that happen. It was like I was trying to swim from the depths of the water to the surface. The surface was just really hard to get through. I could see the light behind it, but couldn't reach it. With a last bit of extra effort, though, I finally cracked through the surface. I woke up. Immediately, the tiredness disappeared. The light had not yet been turned on. I realized that part had been a dream, too. I didn't really want to go back to sleep again that night. It was the first time I successfully fought a sleep paralysis demon and escaped, though. I feel like it's getting less difficult with time. This was the night before last, by the way. This night I had an awesome dream involving telekinesis and the ability to fly. I'm not sure if you wanted me to read this second one. Oh, it's short, I'll just finish it. I kept thinking, oh, it's great, I can finally do this in real life. Then, of course, I woke up and realized I still can't. Hate it when that happens. Yeah. But in terms of the nightmare, it's weird to analyze your nightmare when you're actually watching me. But yeah, I feel like I better be super on point. I feel like, let me just, before I read because I see that you're commenting about it, before I read your comment though, let me just kind of give you my first sort of thoughts. So, I mean, the first thing that I noticed is previously she's told me that she uses this light switch thing as a reality check. So again, reality check when you're lucid dreaming is you have a thing that you do that tells you whether or not you're in a dream. And for her, it's she'll flick on the light switch And if the lights go on, then she is in a dream, I believe. I could be misremembering it, but I think that if the lights aren't working, then she knows that she is in a dream. Sorry, if they do work, then it's real life. Then it's real life if they do work. So the fact that she turns on the lights here and they appear to work, it's sort of like the demon using her own reality check against her, which I actually wrote about in the story that I put out on Thursday. Which is a freaky thought, right? Because it's like all of the lucidity is just, it's for nothing. It's just to torment you further, which is really freaky. Again, the other thought that I had is that, because I know also that you've had nightmares before about protecting your mother, and this could be, you seem to have like those protective instincts, and in this case it's not only your mother but your cat, and you feel the need to, no way was I going to let that happen. You're really like adamant about standing up to this demon, and it's probably just as much for the behalf of your cat and your mother as for you, because something bad's going to happen. So it could just be, one of those sensations of just needing to protect someone. All right, so those are my first thoughts. And let me see what all these comments say. This may be off topic, but I hardly ever have nightmares, so it's a big moment. I had a COVID nightmare the other night. A woman got into my car. She was unmasked and I didn't know her. I told her to get out and added, "I don't even know whether you have COVID." She would not leave, and I had to tell her I was calling the cops. Then she got out. Yeah, there we go. There's a proper COVID nightmare, which would have been, good last week, but it's good every week. I appreciate, you telling me that. Interesting. And then from Michelle, who just wrote this other nightmare. Sorry, I should try to keep things in order. Maybe I should mention, during false awakenings, the lights usually don't work. That's how I know it's a dream or nightmare. Okay, so I remembered that correctly. My dreams have gotten more creative in that point anyway, like dreaming someone was fixing the lights and stuff. Like my brain really doesn't want me to use that trick or something. Interesting. So you're getting better at recognizing nightmares and becoming lucid and dealing with it. And at the same time, your nightmares are leveling up. It's kind of like the Matrix, like the better Neo gets at, identifying that he's just, everything in the world is malleable. So too, the AI improves its ability to, exert its like dominance or its will over reality. Just like your nightmare is keeping up with because I guess it's both part of your brain, so both the subconscious, I guess, and the conscious parts of your brain are becoming more advanced as you dream. That's a really interesting thought. But about this COVID dream, no, I think that's a pretty straightforward dream. I think that really doesn't warrant further interpretation. Anyway, so that was thanks, Michelle, for sending that in, and I'm glad that you could join us even though it's super late for you. Again, to anyone watching who wants to send in a nightmare for next week, we're almost out of time this week, but if you're interested in sending a nightmare next week, I'll read it. That's the email right there, theforgottengrove@gmail.com. Be happy to analyze it live and we can talk about it if you hop in. Level up nightmares, just what I needed. Yeah. I had some channel announcements. I don't know what happened, so again, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties midway through. If YouTube didn't record it, I'll just upload the presentation at least separately, because I record everything on OBS anyway. So if you wanted to see that, you can see that still. Again, it's going to be a video on Tuesday as well as the regular Thursday videos, which are actual stories, but the Tuesday video is going to be a nightmare interpretation TikTok compilation that I made. It's all my stuff. I like to keep everything as original as possible on this channel. Once again, thanks for 100 subscribers, and if you're watching now and you haven't subscribed and you haven't liked, I would appreciate if you would do those things and hit the bell, because I do like growth, and I do like when there's a party going in here. I like all this, all these comments that we got tonight, and I'll look into this internet thing. I hope it doesn't happen again. I don't know why it would, But that is about it for this week. No idea what the topic's going to be next week. I have to put some thought into that. But, I'll post it at the start of the day once I've figured out what that should be. And thanks for tuning in. Until next time, embrace the beautiful dark.